In almost every political situation, when actions are taken by a figure, in this case, the president of the United States, some people are going to be happy about it and some people are going to be mad. There are different amounts, right? Different levels. Sometimes more people will be happy about something, more people will be mad about something, depending on the situation. But in light of recent events, you could imagine that a lot of people, it's not the school teacher who could lose funding because of Trump's assault on the Department of Education who's happy with his actions. It's not you or I seeing political reporting like this saying after the rebellion of budget committee hardliners scrambled Johnson's plans late last week, GOP leaders pushed chairs to find deeper spending cuts offsets across all House committees. That could mean massive cuts to Medicaid and SNAP food aid benefits, as well as other key safety net programs vulnerable House Republicans are less comfortable with slashing. This to justify to pare back the deficit impact as it pursues massively costly tax cut extensions, extending the tax cuts for the rich that Trump previously implemented. So because they want to extend these giveaways to the wealthiest among us, they're talking about cuts to crucial programs. That's still being crafted, so we'll see where that goes. So it's not us, it's not people who need such benefits who are happy. When Trump starts talking about trade wars with our biggest allies, it's not our biggest allies who are happy, but I found somebody. I found someone who is very happy with the recent actions being taken by the Trump administration. Yes, you guessed it, Putin. I don't know why I said it like that. While you watch this clip, please do click the subscribe button.
Что-то изменилось, что ли, со времен Байдена? Да ничего не изменилось. Они с удовольствием выполняли любой приказ со стороны Вашингтона при Байдене. Просто им
I will translate this after our video viewers watch it.
Трамп не нравится, они с ним боролись активно, да, реально вмешивались в политическую жизнь, предвыборный процесс в Соединенных Штатах, а потом растерялись, когда Трамп вдруг выиграл. И потом Байден ментально им больше нравился, понимаете, ментально. А у Трампа другие представления о том, что такое хорошо, что такое плохо, в том числе в этой гендерной политике, в некоторых других вопросах, им как бы не нравится это. Но я вас уверяю, Трамп с его характером, с его настойчивостью, он наведет там порядок довольно быстро. И все они, вот увидите, это произойдет быстро, скоро. Все они встанут у ноги хозяина и будут нежно помахивать хвостиком.
So I'll read through for our podcast listeners real quick and then we'll discuss the captions from Putin here. He says, has something changed since Biden's time? And this is about our European allies. Nothing has changed. They were happy to carry out any order from Washington under Biden. They just don't like Trump. They fought him actively, really interfered in political life and the election process in the United States. And then they were confused when Trump suddenly won. I'm so sick of that talking point, by the way. Wow. The elites, the establishment, the libs, it caught them off guard that Trump won. We were all losing our minds before the election. The reason there was all this panic and then we pushed Biden off the ticket and then we're all thinking, what are we going to do? Who's going to run? Is because that panic came from a place of, do you remember the bedwetters criticism of Democrats? That came from a place of understanding there was a very real chance Trump could win, and that was our fear. And then they mentally liked Biden more, mentally. But Trump has different ideas about what is good, what is bad, including in gender policy, in some other issues. They kind of don't like it. But I assure you, Trump, with his character persistence, he will restore order pretty quickly. And all of them, you'll see, it will happen quickly. Soon, all of them will stand at the master's feet and gently wag their tails. What a weird phrase. Why are you saying gently? No, whatever. CNBC reports Russia's Vladimir Putin warned Europe will quickly stand at the feet of the master after U.S. President Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China, provoking a global markets meltdown and alarm among European allies. He's saying that Trump will restore order in Europe. So what's going on here? Putin's eating it up. We've seen now a couple clips of him just loving it. That Trump is saying, instead of focusing on uniting in our opposition to regimes that threaten the very essence of what we stand for. And to the MAGAs who jump to this conclusion every time, I'm not saying we go to war with Russia. Opposition in other ways, one of them being supporting Ukraine in their defense of themselves. But instead of uniting, or instead of being productive in his governance just generally, he's starting these feuds so he can show how powerful he is. But is he brave enough to start those feuds with our actual adversaries? No. When it comes to Putin and Xi Jinping, China, he loves them and he's so complimentary. Brilliant Xi Jinping. Fine gentleman Putin, etc. You've heard the quotes. But he feels more comfortable beating his chest and showing how strong he is when it comes to Canada and Mexico, who will always respond in a more reasonable manner, obviously. And so this is why when we look at efforts, it's not to Russia, or dive into all of Russia, but when we look at efforts of the social media operations, etc., from Russia over the years, election related, it's because they want to promote the candidate they think would cause the most inner turmoil. They are constantly, whether it's with politics, electoral politics, or something else, are trying to stoke division and chaos. And they see a divided America and a divided sort of Western alliance as really beneficial to them. Then, by the way, meanwhile, Russian state TV, you know what they're saying about some of Trump's picks?
Неопытных, но зато преданных ястребов, ультра-лоялистов, как их называют американские СМИ. Все они молоды по сравнению с Трампом, все они как один питают к Зеленскому личную неприязнь, все при этом и России не товарищи. Кроме главы нацразведки Талси Габбард, это сегодняшняя номинация. Ее-то как раз считали лоббистом интересов Путина и обвиняли в том, что она за деньги продвигает на Западе кремлевские, как сейчас модно говорить, нарративы.
So they're saying, I don't know if Trump's picks are a friend of Russia, except for Tulsi Gabbard. And they note that she was accused of lobbying for Putin's interests. And so that's what's really sad about some of this, is that it's sort of knowing the bad actors domestically and abroad who are cheering on the total chaos of the Trump administration thus far. Because when our eye is on trade wars with Canada, when our eye is on trying to illegally impound federal funds, when our eye is on trying to get rid of an institution that seeks to uplift people educationally, then our eye is not on the ball, being opposing those who seek to do us or others harm domestically or abroad, or just focusing on productive policy. A good example is Trump is reportedly crafting, as we've covered, an executive order to get rid of the Department of Education, or start that process to gut it. And then ultimately, if he can get Congress's approval, even though he's saying he thinks he could do it without Congress's approval, he would get rid of it altogether, because I think the states should figure that out. What is that going to do? It's going to exacerbate the inequality between, yes, red states and blue states, honestly. Red states needing more of the support, but then also just low-income communities in either type of state and wealthier communities. All in the name of, we're going to do school choice and we're going to privatize education. Well, that becomes a very justified thing to be distracted by. We're going to be distracted by that in a sense. We're going to focus on it. But that should not at all take up our time, because we should be thinking about how we improve, enhance investments in educational opportunities, not pull back on them. And then as you have these global conflicts going on, Trump said he was going to get Russia's invasion of Ukraine, done, settled, gotta settle. He said he was going to tell Putin and Zelensky. He said it was all going to be resolved within 24 hours of taking office. Well, before taking office, he's even said before, while he was president-elect. And instead of putting his time and energy in that on a foreign policy basis, he's focused on trade wars with our allies. He's focused on deriving meaningless concessions from Canada so that he can have a positive news cycle in MAGA media instead of actually addressing the issues that matter. And on the issues that matter, he's actively attacking us in his policies, right? It is not an issue that matters for him to say that he got something from Canada that he didn't really get. But undermining that relationship, undermining and pushing away our allies and pushing them toward a financial and economic status that would put us in a less advantageous place. And then on the things that matter as it pertains to education, as it pertains to USAID, etc., he's doing very consequential things that are harmful. Meanwhile, the New York Times, CIA sends White House an unclassified email with names of employees. The list of partial names was provided in an effort to comply with an executive order to trim the federal workforce. Listen to this. The CIA sent the White House an unclassified email listing all employees hired by the spy agency over the last 2 years, coming from the people who screamed about Hillary's emails for 30 billion years, to comply with an executive order to shrink the federal workforce in a move that former officials say risked the list leaking to adversaries. So from Putin's perspective, as this segment is sort of exploring, there's so much yummy in my tummy is what he's thinking as he actively, illegally attempts to take over another country. Ongoing, I should emphasize. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you want to support the show and get the members only bonus show, you can do it by clicking that join button below.